Welcome to Origin Stories. I'm RD.
I'm Parrot.
We're telling stories behind the digital art revolution
Each week we interview top artists.
and live stream with the community.
Let's go. Today is tomorrow's origin story.
Colin Frangicetto, Colin Circa, welcome to Origin Stories.
Hey, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm really glad we got a chance to do this.
Me too.
It's been in the works now for a few weeks since our fun moment of synchronicity together. Which let's save that for later. Let's give you all the shine right now.
Cool.
I'm gonna go right into it. What is your origin story?
All right. I hope you have a few hours. Let's go here. I've been thinking about this because, like I said, I have watched the pod a few times, and I know this is how you kick it off. And there's so many different ways I could answer this question. But I think really my path has been one where I, at a very young age, fell in love with like the act of creation, creativity, starting from like being a very young child and like making stick figure battles with my dad and my brother, where we would just draw these scapes that would evolve kind of like almost like stop animation style, where we'd be adding to them as we'd go. And in my head, I would see these moving images happening. And the fact that we were creating them out of this ether was just so magical. And I fell in love with that act of creating something from nothing. And I think that just sort of, multiplied over time as I grew into sort of adolescence and into my teens, into my weird years and my outcast years, and finding a place where I felt, I had an identity. And that was where I found like punk rock and, kind of music scenes, underground music scenes, and groups of friends that were making zines and recording their own demos and doing all that kind of stuff, and just fell further and further into those communities and those sort of, those places where it seemed like people were existing off of the imagination. They were making things, and somebody would have an idea, and then a month later you would see how it would germinate and people would get into it and be affected by it. And that was just intoxicating for me. And I think over time, as I graduated high school and just grew into a place where like, oh, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, more and more I would just hear this voice inside saying like, you're not going to go a normal road. You're going to need to like deviate from that path. And I got great encouragement from my family and some friends, but for the most part I felt like there was a lot of like, you think you're going to do that for a living? A lot of the disbelief and kind of a lot of people sadly don't like to see other people get free. They like they think that if they have to work a job that they hate, or if they have to do something that they have to play by the rules, then everybody should. And I caught a lot of that attitude, and I think it just fueled me to be like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna make it happen. So I'll probably stop there, because otherwise I'll just keep going. But ultimately, that's what led me down the path that finds me here, a full-time musician of like 17, 18 years plus, and a fine artist of over a decade now, and existing off the fumes of my imagination still,
I like that.
Yeah.
Existing off the fumes of my imagination. That is a good quote right there.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Question and a comment.
Yeah.
First question. Stick figures. I'm stuck over there and I'm imagining things. Did you ever create the flip book? That magic. Yeah. Okay, good.
Oh yeah.
That's all I was thinking about. That scene by scene where you create every page and then you flip it and you watch the stick figure do whatever the stick figure is going to do.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a big one. Once I learned I could do that, that was like, I was no longer interested in the battle scenes anymore. I just wanted to, I just had stacks of these Post-its. Man, I wish I could find them today. That'd be great.
That would be cool.
But yeah, love the post-it animation.
And then the comment is, I like how you frame the stages of creation, that you were exposed to someone having an idea, playing that out very rapidly, and then seeing it adopted or enjoyed by a group of others and a little community being built around it. I enjoyed how you put that in perspective, how you saw that playing out, and then you wanted to be a part of that yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I got obsessed with that process, and um, all throughout my life, anytime I have a friend who has an idea like that, that's like probably my most exciting moments are being around people who get that ping and they're like, "Oh, I kind of think maybe I should do this thing." And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I can see that they're standing on the precipice of a cliff, and I'm just like, I grab them by the shoulders and I'm like, "Let's jump. Let's go." Cuz
Yeah.
like, there's so many people out there with incredible ideas and really just amazing wells of creativity, but they're just paralyzed by fear. And all they're waiting for is someone to give them permission to
Mhm.
say like, yeah, you should do that. Like there there is a place for your vision out there. And that's like I don't know, I'm addicted to that feeling, both within myself, but I would say even more so like witnessing it in other people is like my favorite thing.
It's an incredible thing. And I was gonna say, I'm usually the optimist, but also to paint the picture, some people are also waiting for someone to talk them down, right?
Yeah.
And so when they do get, because it's a very, that creativity where you get the ping, right, and
Hmm.
you move forth with an idea. And for me, obviously, I am not creating art, but creating, different business ideas. And the idea phase is a very precarious position to be in,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's just in your mind. And if someone kind of takes that needle and hits the balloon just right, that idea deflates quite quickly.
Oh yeah. That's a great point. And I think yeah, you realize over time like how vulnerable that state is. And I think for a long time I wasn't totally aware that I was vulnerable to that. And I would think, I'm always going to share my ideas. I'm always going to tell people what I'm dreaming of. And, over time, you start to realize, like, okay, maybe sometimes you need to keep it to yourself until it's really in a place where it's undeniable,
Hmm.
or you have your safe people that are going to just foster that and like really encourage it. Because some people, not even to their own fault, it's just the way they're programmed or just the way that they've experienced things. They don't realize that they have the potential to kill an idea or to kill an inspiration in someone else, just by asking a question,
Yeah.
um, so it's a yeah, it's a sensitive thing, and I like to be a cheerleader, and I like to be, someone who I hope that friends and peers see as a safe place. Like, I can go to him and tell him an idea, and I'm most likely going to be like, yeah, that's fucking awesome. Even if there's things about it that I have my own, like, oh well, I hope they work that out or whatever. It's like we'll save that conversation for when they actually want that input,
Mhm.
and they're further
I
down the road.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's a high level approach right there. I feel like you took your own understanding of that creative process and then spun it around. You're really understanding the nuance of when is appropriate to drop what. Because yeah, in that initial phase, sometimes, like you said, a question can break it, can
Yeah.
can can just break it right there. So you're saving that for a moment when it may be better received and may actually be positive, instead of the
Right.
initial phase.
Right. Well, because you want the person to feel safe, right? And explore. The more narrow that initial seedling of an idea gets, the more fragile it is.
Mhm.
And so that's why at first it needs to be able to just be like, all right, what are all the possibilities, and not feel this restriction of like doubt. But then as it gets further along that journey, uh that's when, if they feel safe, they'll be like, hey, can I bounce some stuff off of you and get your opinion? Like, which way do you think is better here, or which functionality do you think would be you know, the more successful way to approach this? If this was you, how would you do it? You know, when you get asked that, that's a really that's a high honor to be trusted with that. And so I try to kind of take on that role as like a big deal. And you know, anytime I have friends or even people who are strangers who will hit me up and ask that kind of thing, I try to remind myself, like, look at how vulnerable they are right now. You know, just don't, no matter how you're feeling right now, don't burst that bubble, you know.
Yeah.
Nurture.
So take us through anywhere along your origin story path. Take us through the positive and the negative. Take us through, actually start with the down and then end with the up. What was one idea in a fragile state that maybe you gave up on too soon, that you look back on, you say, if I could have pushed that forth, I think it would have been great?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. You know, the one that always sticks out to me, and I think this is a good one to talk about, because while it comes off negative at first, I've really come around to seeing it as, oh no, it needed to go down this way. But you know, when I graduated high school, you know, I had a lot of friends. You know, I was in a few honors classes, but overall, I was kind of like caught in the middle of a lot of different friend groups and a lot of different peer groups. And it's like I had these friends that I grew up with that were all like extremely intelligent and always in like honors AP, and I that actually inspired me to be a better student and want to be with them, right? But I couldn't hack it for the most part. You know, I have severe ADHD. I really wasn't interested in some of the things. I was really just trying to, you know, it was more of a social thing. So it's like with things like English and stuff, I'd be in the AP track, and then, you know, math, I was just like failing basic math, and same with science. I just really didn't get it a lot of the times. And so I think for me, when I was graduating high school and a lot of my friends were applying to colleges and knew what they were doing, it really like fucked me up, because I didn't really know, I didn't feel that attraction to go apply to a bunch of like high level schools. And I certainly didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. It felt very scary. All I knew is that I felt extremely passionate about music and art. But at the time, I was just playing in punk rock bands, hardcore bands, and had an ethos of like, I can't make money with this. I'm never going to make money with this. And if I did, it would probably taint what I was making. Right. There was very much this like, you know, I think, poisoned with that sort of like sellout kind of like ideology early on. And it made me feel like, okay, no, that's sacred. And it's kind of great that it can't ever be a career. So second best to that in my mind was becoming a visual artist. And so I went to community college right out, and I just picked the thing that sounded the most fun. I was like, oh, I'm going to go into fine art, and instantly had a lot of like friction from advisors and other people who were kind of like, what are you going to do as a fine artist? Do you think you're going to find a career as a fine artist? They're like, you should do graphic design instead. Like that, you know, it's artistic, but at least you can make money doing it. So I was like, okay, I'll try graphic arts. And the cool part was, when you go into the graphic design program, they still put you through the foundation year where you go and you take all these art classes. And I kind of loved that. And I loved being with all the art kids. And I loved the drawing classes. I loved the painting classes. I loved like even, you know, the design classes, you know, learning Photoshop and learning like, I was learning a lot of stuff. Same with the film classes, but 3D design fucked me up. And I had a professor. He was just such an asshole, and he was kind of like a drill sergeant. And he Uh-oh, I
You're
lost
good.
you.
You're good.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, so he really would have these days where he would just like rip students a new asshole, and you could just tell like he was sort of a bitter guy, you know, like he wanted to do something obviously different with his life, but he decided to go the route of, all right, I'm going to teach. And one day he just didn't like some. Had a tendency to like not do the assignments. Like I wouldn't follow the criteria. I really wanted to just explore my own kind of creative world. And some teachers were really into that and would be like, okay, you didn't really do the assignment, but I love what you made. This guy would just, if you didn't do exactly what he said, he would just fucking snap on you.
I know that type of person.
Yeah. And that day, I was doing something different than what he asked us to do, and he just snapped on me in front of the class and like screamed at me and said like, you need to reconsider your career path as an artist. You're not going to make it as an artist. You will never make it as an artist. And like screamed at me in front of all these people. And I remember that day that I was just like, all right, I'm done. Like I took it to heart. It completely just squashed me. And a few weeks later, I told my parents that I was dropping out of school and I was going to go work full time. And so I dropped out of college and I was working at Best Buy full time and doing a lot of stuff with my band, my other band, This Day Forward. We were like a hardcore band. And so out of school and just kind of like fuck that path. I'm not going to be an artist. I'm going to like work a job that I hate, but then I'm going to save up money and like go on tour with my friends and just be like a punk rocker forever. And yeah, I mean, so I think about that moment was a pretty crazy like pivotal thing, because I think I probably would have continued down the road of art school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I probably would have you know, who knows what would have happened. I mean, I really was extremely passionate about painting and drawing, and I think I eventually probably would have changed my major to fine art,
Mm-hmm.
officially, you know, gotten out of graphic design and really gone that way. But that one professor just really like shattered. All I needed to hear was somebody tell me like I was worthless, you know, and I believed him. And and it actually killed my passion for drawing. It killed my passion for painting. I stopped painting and drawing completely, um, and just went into music. And for better or for worse, you know, that's what led me to the path that you know, I'm here with Circa. You know, we've done things as a band that like I never in a million years could have imagined. And that band would never have happened without This Day Forward. And This Day Forward would have never gotten to the point where we actually took a swing at being a full-time band.
Mm-hmm.
That would have never happened if I hadn't dropped out of college. So like I can see like that asshole kind of did me a favor.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the thing is like the freedom I got afforded when Circa actually had success, you know, and I was, you know, on the road all, you know, 10 months out of the year, all of a sudden I had all this downtime and I'm like, I should start drawing again, you know, and I started drawing on tour, started making little paintings for the merch table just to make some extra money. And all of a sudden it was just like a bug. It just like completely grabbed me again. And I got obsessed with painting and drawing again and was like, you know, I guess it's almost like the mountain of like trying to succeed as a musician. I had
Mm-hmm.
sort of gotten to the top of where I ever thought I could get to with that. So I was a little bored. I mean, I was, you know, very happy. Obviously, Circa's playing sold out shows everywhere. I'm all over the world, and I'm, you know, again, I'm paying my bills with a passion. But all of a sudden, I was like, I wonder if I could do that with art now. You know, like what? I wonder how I could do that. So all it was like all right overnight I was like back in the demo phase, you know, like when you're a band just getting started, you make a demo and you're like trying to get people to like you and you're trying to get signed, and like I was back in that phase, but as a visual artist now, it's like, how do I get people to see my work? How do I get people to buy my work? How do I get into galleries? How do I do all this? And then that was, you know, a whole nother journey that I've been on now for a decade. And yeah, I can lead all of this good shit back to that moment where that asshole crushed my soul.
He popped the balloon.
Yeah,
A critical,
he sure did.
but you found your way back.
Yeah.
You were unstoppable.
Yeah, and the thing is like I don't know how it could have went down if I went full-time art, right? And never went into the music thing. You know, maybe it would be the reverse, you know, like maybe I would have success in fine art first and then be like, you know, I still really love music. Like maybe I should try this music thing. But I kind of doubt it, you know. I kind of feel like this is the way it had to go for me. Because again, I'm for the most part self-taught in all aspects, you know, as a guitar player, a drummer, as a painter, a drawer. And I don't really like the term outsider art because I feel like it's kind of like, you know, it feels kind of like negative. But I see myself more as a part of like, you know, I don't see myself as a part of the establishment in any of these mediums. So, yeah,
Maybe that's a little bit of that sellout ideology coming back, right? Like that.
potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've never, even through all of the like the labyrinths of you know, I think philosophical debate I've had to go through over the course of Circa's career, you know, making these decisions of like, is this a decision made with integrity, or is this a decision based solely on finance? Um and you go through that over and over and over again. And I think our band has done an incredible job at walking the fine line of making decisions always like with a foundation of integrity, you know. Have we ever done things just to get paid? Absolutely. But like there are certain lines that you're like, nah, it's not worth it, you know. And I think going through that experience first and foremost with a group of collaborators has been just completely invaluable for me, you know. Having to navigate that on your own as an individual, I think is really challenging.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's get back to Circa in a minute because I think it ties in a bit to how I interacted with you first in the digital art space. So I'd love to save that for a moment and ask you a specific question about your return to art.
Yeah.
So you deviate. Professor pops the bubble.
Yeah.
You say, I'm out of here. You dive into a music career, change bands along the way.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then you have the thought, I have a little bit of spare time. Let me pick up a drawing utensil and put it to good use. What is that very first sketch or drawing that happened?
Yeah, I remember it. So these things happen in like seeds, and it's rarely a like moment of explosion and then all of a sudden everything happens. It's like, I remember being in our first band house when we were writing Juturna. It was a super creepy house that we rented. It was like very cheap, and we were all living there together. And Anthony and I were kind of like the parents of the band, so we took the attic, which is just like super creepy. Like no normal human would never want to just live up there. But we were like, whatever, yeah, we can smoke bowls up there and stuff. But I remember having this very strange experience where I was having sort of like a lucid dream, or it was like, I don't know, it was in the middle of the night, and I had this weird encounter with like this being up there. And I still to this day, like it feels very real, but I don't know, it was in the middle of the night, and so maybe it was just a dream. But I had this encounter that was really powerful, and it was so powerful that the next day I had to like pick up a piece of paper and some markers and just like doodle out this weird, like, it was like a fucking giant like rat spirit being. I don't even know how to explain it, but it was like telepathically communicating to me. and it was very loving, even though it was kind of creepy. It was just a very bizarre experience, but it was powerful enough to make me feel like I needed to like sketch this thing out and kind of document it for myself. And
Were there psychedelics involved on this particular night?
no, not that night. But you know, probably like around within a few weeks of it, there was. So you know, I can never completely rule out that as playing a role. But um, yeah, it was really bizarre, and but it really kind of haunted me in a way, and so it made me want to document it, and it was a very like pure instinct of like, you know, not like, oh, I'm gonna make a drawing to like, you know, for a class, or make a drawing for like, you know, to sell or whatever. It was like, I'm making this to document this experience, and so I can look back and remember it. And
I was going to say like a mental photograph.
yeah, totally. And I wound up doing that a few times during that. We only lived there for like 3 months while we were writing, and in that 3 months, I think I maybe made 3 or 4 drawings slash paintings, and they were all just very personal, and that sort of was like the seed of like, that felt really good. It felt like a good way to express something. But you know, now that I think about it, a few months prior to that, before Circa became a band, Anthony was home doing a side project, and called High and Driving, and they played one show ever, and they were playing this show at the Troc in Philly, and
Oh
he's like,
man, good.
and
You're bringing back some memories for me.
yeah,
I've been to the
yeah,
Troc a lot of times.
me
Oh
too,
man.
like hundreds of times, like absolutely. That place changed me. Like I saw shows there. One of my first all ages shows was there. Like I was 13, 14. But yeah, I used to go to the Troc probably like anywhere from like 3 to 5 times a week, from
Hmm.
like the time I was 13 all the way to like 20, you know, obsessed with that place. But so they were playing a show there, and he's like, we don't have any merch or anything, but like, I know like you make, you know, you've made art and stuff. Like, can you make us like some posters or something to sell? And so I made these 3 like collage paintings for him, and we got like, I think we went to like Kinko's or something. We made like just color copies of them, and they just sold them for like $5, and
Hmm.
they all sold out. And I remember that being like, whoa, that was really cool. Um, so that was cool. That was a little seed. Then the personal drawing paintings in the house were a seed. But then I fast forward maybe like 2 years into the band touring, we were playing Warp Tour, and yeah, it was like lots of downtime, and Anthony and I would just always kind of like be looking for ways we could like hustle, make more money, but also kind of just be creative together. So we started doing raffles at the merch table, and he and I would each do a painting or a drawing every day. Um, and again, that was just another step along the way. Then there was a tour where he and I did a collab every day. Um, yeah, it's just incrementally. And then what really broke the dam was our favorite record store in Doylestown, Siren Records.
Man.
Um,
So I guess it's time to tell the viewers. I found out later we grew up in the same area,
yeah,
which is incredible. It was,
Bucks County, baby.
yeah, Bucks County. All right, cool. Go
Yeah,
on, go on. I just wanted to drop that.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Siren was getting like evicted from their space.
Okay.
They had their they were behind on some bills, and their landlord pulled some shenanigans on them, and basically they were kind of being held ransom, like you have to pay this much money to get your stuff back, because they essentially locked up the building. All the records were in there, all their laptops. It was like a pretty horrible thing the way they did it. The landlord was trying to sell the place to Subway, so it was like, it was some really all of us were pretty fired up about it. And I mean, we went to that place like every day, because eventually the band moved to Doylestown, and we just we'd go in for coffee and then we'd go to Siren and hang out,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just our spot. So when that happened, we were like, oh shit, we got to help them, we got to do something. And so I was like, I'm gonna put on a show at this little, like, there's like a little like weird hall that I could rent there, and I'll do part art show and part like music show. So I got a few people to perform there. um I'm pretty sure that parts of the band weren't around, or like maybe Steve was recovering from a surgery, because there was a reason why we couldn't play. Um, anyway, so decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna make like a bunch of paintings and drawings and just sell them and give all the money to Siren. So I did that. I got Anthony to do some paintings. I had my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend at the time, she's a really great photographer, put some work in. Had Anthony's wife Meredith put some photography in, and we had like an art show before the music show went down, and we raised like a bunch of money and gave it to Siren. And that was the first experience I ever had in like pricing my work,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And that, yeah, from that point on, it was like all I wanted to do was paint and draw. Every second I wasn't, working on music for the band, it was like, that's all I wanted to do.
And then so from there on, is it that duality of going from one to the other and back again? Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, and actually there was a lot of like, there was a lot of kind of anguish with that for me, because you go through this thing where well, I wrote it down in a journal a long time ago when I started feeling this, but I just summed it up as everybody hates Bo Jackson, because it was like, you already have this one thing. Why are you trying to do this thing now?
Got it. Got it.
And like, so every time I was trying to like make some headway in the art world, I felt like I was getting looked at like, oh, here's this guy in a popular band just wants to come in here and throw his crap art up, and thinks he's got a right to do this or whatever. So I really felt like over the years that I had to separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very much so like tried to have this like kind of quiet existence as a painter drawer and not lean too hard on the band thing for it. And I was just really self-conscious about it. um Yeah. So there was just probably a few years there where I was really hurting and wanting the recognition and validation from galleries and stuff, and just working super hard trying to get better at what I was doing. And eventually that day came where I like got an offer from a gallery in Philly, and they were launching a new space, and they were like, we want to give you a solo show,
Mm.
and it was like the first like really like big opportunity I got as an artist. And that gallery, Arch Enemy Arts, is like, I mean, they're fucking massive. The artists they work with now, it's just like insane to think that I was like kind of their guinea pig. Like I christened their space, and I still work with them all the time. I'm in a lot of group shows with them. I've been a part of some really great shows over the years. They did a lot of stuff for me as a visual artist.
And how do they find you? So when you have your first big break, your first big opportunity in the art world, are they contacting you, or are you putting feelers out constantly? How's that work?
Well, I was at the time putting out a lot of feelers. Man, I have this all documented, and I actually put this in a newsletter once, but I had a list of like every gallery, every blog, every like collective, and I would just submit my work to them like
Mm-hmm.
clockwork every couple months. And it was just like for every like 100 emails I sent out, I would maybe get like 2 or 3 responses that were positive. Everything else was either ignore or rejection. And you know, and the reason I put that in a newsletter was to say, like, rejection is a temporary thing if you continue to do what you do. Because if you continue to do what you do, eventually that no can turn into a yes. And so yeah, there was a lot of like great stuff that I got out of that period of time. But so what happened ironically was a good friend of mine, Anthony Delia, who has worked in like Atlantic Records and like all these different kind of music industry companies. He is a great visual artist, and he no longer is in the music industry either. But he was really very encouraging about my visual art and was always telling me like, oh, I think you really are onto something, like you really should keep going here. And like so a bunch of the people that first started Arch Enemy Gallery were related like somehow in the music industry. They all came from the music industry and like left the music industry to get into fine art. And they were just out getting a beer with Anthony, and he was like, yo, like, who would be a great artist? Like Colin, and his paintings are really cool. And he pulled up my work, showed it to him. They were like, oh yeah, totally. This stuff's great. This is exactly the direction we're trying to go in. So then they contacted me. They said like, can you make some work over the next couple of weeks and we'll come out for a studio visit to check it out. And they did. And I was really nervous. I thought like, oh, they're going to see my work and say it's shit and say it's not really going to work out. But they came and they loved it. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. We'll give you the whole space. So I launched a Kickstarter so I could raise some funds to like, because I wanted to make like installations and I really wanted to like do it big. So that was my first time doing a Kickstarter, and that was successful. And I made all these crazy, weird installations. And the opening night was like nuts. There was like people lined up down the street. It was a really amazing experience, but I was crushed that night because 100+ people in the gallery, not one sale. And I felt like a failure. So I was out in my ex-wife's car just crying for a while, feeling like I had totally fucked up, because I'd put everything into this show for like months. And so eventually, after I was pretty much gonna quit, and it was like a pivotal moment of saying, okay, I'm gonna give it a little more time. It's a long story, but I had this very powerful synchronistic moment where the day I was gonna give up, my parents said like, you shouldn't give up. Like the show is incredible. Just give it some time. And I was like, I don't know, I was feeling really like, I was kind of down on myself and didn't want to hear that, and was really hurting for money. And this long drive home eventually, had a very weird experience happen. And then it was like, walked in the door, opened up the email. Hey, we sold 2 pieces today, and it was like, and then more followed at, and then, here I am now, like hundreds, probably like well over 1,000 originals at this point I've made and sold. I have maybe like one of my own works in my house, but otherwise they're all out there in the world. And I remember feeling that, before that day, before those 2 gallery sales happened, I thought like, what am I doing? I'm just like a joke, like whatever. I should just keep just playing music and whatever.
It was like the figurative professor moment in a different way. Except
I heard that guy in my head at that moment for sure.
Except this time you made it home and you got the emails.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a crazy turning point. There was kind of this. Okay, I'll just tell you what happened. So like my dad, he was like trying to like give me $40 when I was leaving their house, like just like, just take this $40 for gas or whatever, just because he knew I was down and stressed about money. And not that $40 was going to change my life or anything, but they're always just trying to be supportive and kind. And
of course,
and I was being very like stubborn, and I was like, no, I don't want to take your money, because I hadn't taken money from them in years. And it was like, okay, I'm not taking your money. But he wouldn't stop. So I was like, fine, I'll take it. Went outside in the car, put it in their mailbox, drove away, and was like, I put your $40 in the mailbox, just a heads up. Thank you. I love you. Drove all the way back to Doylestown. They live in Langhorne, so it was like a 45-minute drive.
Yep.
Decided I was going to go get a 6-pack of beer. Went to this bar. It's a cash only bar. Went up to the ATM, go up to it, and I'm like fiddling around with the ATM, and I am trying to hit the $20 button, and I look down and there's two 20s sticking out already.
Whoa.
And I was just like, what the fuck? And I like picked it up, and I felt like a ghost. I went up to the bartender. I was like, is anybody missing $40? Like, and he was just like, no. I'm like, look around. There's like one other person in the bar. So it was like this weird thing. It was like, you were supposed to take that $40, or I don't know. It gave me this weird feeling. And I remember telling my dad about it. Be like, isn't this weird? Like, you tried to give me this $40. I refused it. And then all of a sudden, like an hour later, there's just $40 sitting in this ATM. Never came out of my account or anything. And then as soon as I got home, like 5 minutes later is when I got that email of like,
oh, that's when the email came.
So, yeah, man. It was all like, and it just felt like meaningful, everything kind of lined up in this way of like, don't give up, keep going,
and also that hint of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to find my own way. Like, thank you, Dad, love you, but I'm going to find my own way. And then all of a sudden it's like, universe steps in. Here's your 40, and
yeah, exactly. Like, it gave me this feeling of like, you have to keep the faith. You have to, because since that moment, I've had many, many moments where the bank account is drained, and it's like, how am I going to make it through? And that was like the guiding principle. That moment was like, whenever you feel like this, just don't fret, just stay the course, and shit will work out. Keep working hard, keep believing, and things will work out. And like I said, like, decade plus later, I've had so many of those moments where I felt that fear, felt like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it's just like, I don't want to say something as cheesy as the universe provides, but honestly, it does, or it has for me,
Or it can feel that way, at times.
It can. Yeah.
And I want to go back to something you said early on in the story that stuck out to me because of the synchronicity with what you said and with what Gavin Shapiro said in another Origin Stories interview.
God, love that guy.
He's the best, and he actually just made the jump. He's coming in full time, which is which is amazing. Yeah. But what he said and what you said line up in that he, at a point in his career, when he felt that the skill set warranted it, he was ready to go. He was firing out 100 emails, right? Yeah. To go back to what you were experiencing with the galleries, you had your list. You had your list of every gallery and every blog and every, and you put your 100 out, and you get the 2 replies, and you keep rinsing and repeating until that opportunity shows up. And I just want to keep highlighting this because I think too often someone can assume, oh, this person made it, or they're in the limelight now, or they just sold a bunch of works, and why isn't that happening to me? And often the very beginning, right, that idea seed, if you can keep the faith, and if you can keep putting yourself out there, and if you can chase it for long enough, oftentimes it works out.
Yeah, it's true. And I'll never say that there isn't a degree of like privilege involved. Like for me, I know that I have certain things on my side that maybe other people don't.
Absolutely.
But I think there is still that foundational principle of really staying the course and really digging in and summoning every ounce of grit that you have and pushing through moments of extreme discomfort, extreme fear. I can't even count how many times in my life where I truly felt like paralyzing fear of doing something new creatively that would put me out kind of on a tight wire of like, I could really embarrass myself here. I could really just flop. I could really make some work that sucks, or that or just like maybe not get it done in time. Like there's all these times I've said yes to things that seemed schedule wise impossible, and God knows, like hopefully I don't die young because of it. I mean, honestly, there have been a lot of periods of my life where I haven't slept very much, you know, because I've worked, you know, 24 hours at times, and gone days without sleeping because I had a gallery show opening or whatever. A lot more balanced these days, a lot more healthy. But you know, in my opinion, it's all been worth it. You know, that stuff. I've never felt more alive than those moments where I felt like I was maybe going to die. You know?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You know, I always say the longer the buildup, you know, the longer the grind. And, you know, so, hey, obviously that can go the other way. It could be too long and then everything falls apart, right?
Totally.
But that, speaking of those precarious moments, that the longer the absolute grind, the more, the sweeter it is on the other side. Like you said, that feeling of being alive, of having made it, of having summited that individual hill or mountain at that moment in time it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the things that I think is important to note, but sometimes can be scary for people to hear. But you know, I would say that, you know, having experienced a lot of those summit kind of moments,
Mm-hmm.
you know, falling in love with a gallery, dreaming of them one day giving you even just a compliment, let alone an opportunity to show with them, um, you know, seeing a venue or a band that you love and imagining, you know, either playing there or opening for them or whatever the case is, and you get there and those things happen, you realize that there truly is no actual summit.
Mm.
There's always another mountain. Always. You get to the top of one and then you're like, oh fuck. Wow. Okay. And this can feel daunting. It can feel a little, I think, alienating, and it can shake some creators, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I think when you're constantly just chasing that summit all the time, you don't think about what am I going to do when I actually get there, you know? Um, and I think this is why it's so important to really fall in love with your work, fall in love with the act of creation, and then everything that comes along with that, the building of community, the connections you make along the way while you're
Mm-hmm.
making the work, like the life that springs out of your creativity, the real life, not like the life of like, you know, oh, I make this painting, this person buys it and then goes down, like, but like the life that you build around the connections that you make, the people that, you know, you connect to, that's where the prize is, right? You know, the fact that you can just sit still for a moment and just kind of exist and not feel like this crushing weight of pressure and this dread of like, I don't want to, I hate what I do, I don't want to wake up tomorrow, you know, that's it. That is the summit. And it's a place, it's a place of mind. It's not really it's not an actual accomplishment that you can like get to and be like, all right, I did it, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to feel that unless you kind of summon it within, you know, at all times. I already have that, you know, I've always had it.
Just thought of a 5-word phrase. The
mm.
summit is the climb.
It's true.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that very much because you're
Yeah.
right. You get to it. You may have that moment. You may have that moment of elation, right? But then what do you see next?
Yeah.
You're right. You're spot on. You start to
Yeah.
cast your eyes around. You realize, okay, well, I don't just, it doesn't just end here. You know, I have to go somewhere from here, and I'm not necessarily interested in climbing all the way back down. So you set your eyes on a new horizon line, a different hill, a different mountain. It makes complete sense. So speaking of the next hill or the next mountain, we now have to fast forward to a very critical moment in your journey. And that
Yeah.
critical moment is, how the heck does it go from galleries, right?
Yeah.
And then when do you intersect with the wonderful world of NFTs?
Yeah. So I got I got into crypto back in, I want to say 2017-ish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bought into Bitcoin at like 2.5K or something, you know. I remember at the time it was like a flash crash.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was the most exciting, happy day ever. But now being, you know, in the know, I'm like, oh man, people were probably freaking the fuck out because it was like, you know, it fell from like 5K or something down that far. And I was like, yes. But I'm like, oh man, there's probably a bunch of people that were like really sad that day. But yes, so I was really intrigued by crypto, got obsessed there for a while. And, you know, over that bull run, the run up to 20
Mm-hmm.
and that crazy alt season and everything that was happening, got a little disillusioned by just, I mean, there's just a lot of cringe in the space and a lot of like just nothing but like price obsession, and like people were losing sight of some of the what I think are the more inspiring, exciting aspects of crypto, which to me is like, you know, decentralization and kind of like new paradigms and freedom, you know. But so right at the tail end of that, when I was kind of getting burnt out on everything, um, that's when I found crypto collectibles and realized that, oh my God, like now there's like this art dimension to this that's starting to happen. I think I started listening to, was it Rare, something Rares? I'll think of it. It'll come to me. Jason Bailey's Dank Rares, great,
Okay.
great fucking podcast. I was super into that, and I was paying attention to the beginning of what was happening there in crypto art, but nothing super rare hadn't launched yet. Like, there really wasn't. I mean, there was like dot art or whatever. There was a few things popping up. Obviously, the rare Pepes were out, but I wasn't really too aware what was going on there. So I didn't feel like the tech was there yet, and I kind of was just like, oh, I'm gonna like stick a pin in this, but really pay attention to it. Fast forward, like after a few years of me really like, I'm just totally immersed in fine art. Over like, I want to say maybe like 2 years ago, when I met Sarah Zucker, the Sarah
Mm-hmm.
Show, and we really connected over, you know, psychedelics and art and all these things. And yeah, we just like had a really casual conversation about crypto art, and she was saying she was kind of like, it was like she was diving in, um but she was like really kind of unsure at first about what it was, but she was intrigued. And so I just kind of started following her journey and really, you know, getting more and more intrigued over the last year, as things really started popping off. And I started noticing people doing really interesting stuff with, you know, just like the evolving NFTs, you know, where they could change based on outside criteria. Like people were getting really experimental with it and seeing more and more like, you know, this way bigger range of styles. And it was just starting to get really exciting. And I just told her, I'm like, I think I'm finally gonna like jump off the diving board I've just been like shivering on for the last like 2 years. Like, what, like, can I do this? You know, being a more traditional artist, I felt maybe like, oh, maybe I don't belong there because like it seems like it's more digital artists, and I messed around with a lot of digital work. I mean, over the last couple of years, I got really into just making video work, you know, like on my Instagram, I do a lot of these like, you know, I'll just have these like couple sentences, these thoughts, almost like poems, and I'll just put them into like text and then fuck with them in a video program and then post them, or I'll take my favorite like Terrence McKenna quote and like put him through some weird filter and then mash that up against some weird like Disney stock footage. And, you know, it's just like, you know, I took a little LSD that day and it felt like the right thing to do. But I never thought like, you know, oh, there'd be a way to like monetize this the way I monetize like my paintings or drawings or anything. And then I just started thinking about it like, how could I make an NFT, you know, valuable and satisfying to me, you know, because it didn't feel right to just like snap a picture of a painting and then just be like, here's an NFT, you know. It felt like it needed more. I just didn't know what yet. And I just, so over the last 6 months or so, it was germinating in my head, like, and then I was just like, well, why don't I pair it with my music? And then also I can, you know, I have all these scans of my work. I can just, you know, pull them apart in Photoshop, layer them, and then just start making some animations. I don't really know much about animating, but just like, fuck it. I mean, I didn't really know much about painting when I started either. You know, I didn't know much about guitar when I started playing. You got to start. So yeah, I just had this idea. I got accepted to Known Origin and was like, all right, I'm going to try to make something cool. And I took a piece, a painting of mine, and started ripping the layers apart and trying to make a move. And it was like a painting that was all about the experience of listening to music or listening to someone talk, just all the ways that listening has affected me through my life, you know, listening to silence in nature. That's what that painting was about. And I wanted to like really bring it to life the way that, you know, obviously when someone looks at the actual painting of that, it's like, okay, that's cool. But I wanted to really bring what that work means to a whole nother level and like a new dimension. And then I started scoring this music piece for it. And I thought, you know, what would be really cool is if I made like a huge extended version of this music, and the only person that would get it is the person that would get this NFT. And then it all kind of locked, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. So, and then you bought it.
Man, Colin, I gotta say, now we get our story. Now we get our universe intersection story.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here at this very desk one day, and doing what I do, which is be obsessed with the NFT space and, you know, hunting around. And I see that Known Origin that day is dropping. Maybe it was the day before, and then what transpired was the next day. But that there were two musical artists dropping on Known Origin. And oh, by the way, one of those two artists sitting right here is Colin. And immediately I see that Circus Survive, and my brain fires, right? And I'm thinking, I've seen Circus Survive live. I was into the entire, like that entire musical scene. I probably saw you at the Trocadero, I imagine.
Probably, yeah.
Right? Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I jump into the NFT itself, and I get the faint vibe of Circus Survive.
Yeah.
That day I jump off into Spotify and just ripping through Juturna, you know, it was nuts. And then I go into your profile, and oh, by the way, you're from Langhorne, PA, which I had no idea at all. It just felt perfect. And so, you know, obviously I became really interested in the NFT itself. To this day, so it's the listener, by the way, on Known Origin. To this day, it strikes me as one of the more underrated, or maybe it's just a case of people having to discover it.
Yeah.
But think about what you did in that NFT. You provided, it's a 30-minute, right? Like you said, a 30-minute track. And I've been, by the way, jamming to it as like meditative work. You know, I've just had it on the headphones, and sometimes I'll loop it like 2, 3, 4, 5 times and just jam away. It's perfect for that. But the fact that you earmarked it and you said, the person who owns this NFT is the only person, right? Because you had no obligation to do that, right? It could have been attached to a track that, oh, by the way, you're then going to do XYZ with, and you would have been completely within your rights to do that. And it still would have been a value add. But man, that you created this monster of a track in the best of ways, and you said, nope, this is it. It just lives here.
Yeah.
That blew me away.
Thanks, man. And thanks again for, you know, just believing in it and connecting to it. It made my heart soar. And, you know, I get so much joy out of that because, you know, I love doing commission work when especially when I have freedom, you know, like when someone
Mhm.
just says, "Hey, I want a piece from you. Here's my budget. Just do whatever you want." I love that. I get just so much joy out of that. So this was kind of like a commission in reverse in some weird way. I somehow knew, I was like, there's someone out there that it's going to want this and needs this.
Mhm.
And so I just really dug in, and I got so much out of building that. I've made some other ambient work, you know, and I've been really interested in it over the last few years. But that was the first time I ever made anything that was 30 minutes long, you know, fully just like, you know, really concentrated on it. And any musician out there knows, like, you know, when you're working in your program, like, you have to make sure that at minute 25 that it feels right. So that
Yeah.
means you're listening all the way through, you know, and you're making sure along the way everything is building
Mhm.
right and everything is. So there was a lot of 30-minute passes I had to do to make that thing, but I got so much out of it. And yeah, it was just, it felt like the right way to put out my first one. And, you know, since then I made a little, like, kind of a doodle, my first digital painting experiment. I put that up on Rarible. My friend Sarah got that. And then yesterday I had a drop on Bitski, which was
Bitski. Yeah.
insane. I started this series, and I did 2 editions of 18. They both sold out, and I have an edition of 6 that still has maybe, like, I think 3 left, but almost all gone, you know, crazy one day. Bitski's cool as shit, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Donnie and Naveen. They're fucking great.
And shout out to Origin Stories co-host Parrot,
Oh
right?
yeah, Parrot had
Parrot
a
part.
great job on there.
Yep, part of
Yeah.
Drop One on Bitski.
Oh man, his shit was awesome. Yeah. Yeah, actually he was the reason why I found Bitski, because I saw his drop and I was like, what the fuck is Bitski? And then I checked it out and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then I think that was maybe like a day before I found out that they were having a clubhouse to kind of talk about what they were doing. And I got in there and, like, asked a question all, like, you know, excitedly. I was like, you know, it would be awesome if I was going to do these musical things, if it could actually be right there for the person, so I don't have to send them a Dropbox link, you know. um and so Bitski's ahead of the game on that aspect. I think, like, the way they do the additional content that's unlocked if you have the NFT in the
Mhm.
wallet, is pretty dope. But yeah, definitely shout out to Parrot too, because I don't know if I would have found it otherwise. It would have taken longer, and I think the timing is everything in this space, you
It
know.
is.
So it felt pretty beautiful to be able to have a drop yesterday. And I'm working on my Genesis for Foundation right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really hyped on that. It's a really cool piece I'm very excited about. And yeah, the future is open, man. Got
Wide open. And in conjunction with this release, I've been meaning to do it for quite some time, is to the depth of meaning of that NFT, the listener, is up there. It's equal or greater than any other NFT that I have collected.
Yeah,
I mean
thank
that.
you. That
And
means a lot because you have an insane, amazing collection.
thanks, man. Thanks, man. But just thinking about it, what other NFT do I interact with to that level, right? You created something that I use, like tangibly
you.
use, that has contributed to work sessions and, you know, relaxing at the computer. And yeah, the use cases for NFTs are incredible, and I feel like the one that you delivered there is just way above and beyond. So I'm going to do not only this release, but I'll do a post on that specific piece and just try to put into words what it's meant, which I think, you know, it means something. I think it means something to me, and I think some people will find value in it as well.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to do more of that, of that nature. You know, um, I think sometimes when people find my work, they might be confused by the fact that I have a few different styles that I work in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm one of the really fun things about the NFT space is, like, these different platforms. And I feel like I have this opportunity of where I think Rarible is going to be where I do, like, a bunch of oddball experiments,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably do my editions, like a lot of them on Bitski. And then I'm going to focus these, like, music kind of painting animations and really put them at known origin and foundation, and then eventually down the road I'll reapply to super rare and do all that. But like honestly, it's just like it excites me that I get to kind of present these styles in a way that actually makes sense, and like not just like on a website where people are like, oh well, that's a lot of weird, like I think people are starting to get like, oh, okay, like his drawings kind of look like this, his paintings look like this, and then he also fucks around with video stuff. And yeah, I've been told at times by smart people who I love, like, oh, if you just did this one style all the time, man, you would fucking blow up, man. Oh my God. And I'm just like, that's tempting, but it feels boring to me, you know? So, for me, it's just all about expression and experiment. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing that.
I think you should, and I think it's the advice that I give out sometimes, just to put it out there, is in line with that. It's do it. Maybe have a plan for how you distribute it across platforms.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're doing that. I mean, that's the best, right? Because then you get to your process is creating what fires you up, and you can do it in any proportions you want. But then when it comes time to the next layer where you're actually going to present that to the world, it's like that one half level of thought of just saying like, what is this audience craving in terms of editions, in terms of presentation? And then you kind of take what means something to you, and I'm going to put this here and this here and this here. And sometimes just that one step of thought just makes everything shine to the next degree.
I totally agree. That's actually why I've been taking a little bit more time before dropping this Genesis on Foundation, because I feel like, again, like I wanted to get a vibe for what the platform was, and really kind of paying attention to what's been happening on there in the last few weeks since they kind of revamped. Really feels like there is a distinct vibe there. And I was like, oh, I wonder like what this piece should be. And so like a year ago, I actually just had my 1 year Patreon anniversary. So I have a pretty dope Patreon community. And so we celebrated a year last night with a little Patreon Zoom. And I was thinking back to when I launched that. I made this really, like, one of my favorite pieces I made for, it was like a special print that people would get who signed up. And on the flip side of it was like this poem that I wrote for them. And it was like this very meaningful piece of like, it's called Symbiosis. And I was just like, this is all about the relationship between collector slash supporter and like artist, and what we give to each other, and like how, it was just very important. So I was like, oh, this would be a great piece to like animate and put up on Foundation, because it has like, there is this history to it. And I feel like a lot of the pieces on Foundation have some kind of history, so I'm stoked to drop that. That'll be coming soon.
I love it. Colin, you ready to play a game?
Yeah, let's play a game.
Let's do it. Familiar with the lightning round?
Yes. But give me the rules just so I don't fuck up.
You can't fuck up. That's the best part. There are 10 steps to it, or 10 topics to it. Snap reaction is best. Just kind of go with where the mind goes, and go with where the mind wants to go. And then if you do happen to want to go on a tangent, absolutely just hit timeout and go where you like.
I'm good at tangents by now, but go for it. All right, Perfect. Let's do it.
Lightning round number 1, crypto art.
Crypto art. So you want me to just say what I think about crypto art?
Yep, first thing comes to mind.
Freedom.
That's a good one.
First thing I think of.
Number 2, favorite piece of art that is not your own.
Oh my God.
And let me hone it in for you. Let's go NFT space.
Okay. This is really hard. I'm gonna have to say, man, there's so many pieces by Sarah that I love. I want to say I think the title was Not in This Dimension. Let's go on a tangent because I want to make sure I get this right. I'm going to look real quick.
All right, so while you look that up, let me go with the next number, which ties right into that. So the last NFT that caught your eye, so not necessarily a favorite, you don't have to go there, but just the last NFT that caught your eye, the last thing that you stared at your screen for an extra beat because it was on there.
Ooh, there's a lot of those. You know, Sam J Studios has made some work that has just completely got inside my brain and stayed there. And I think the one with the 3D printed ring, do you know what I'm talking about?
This is the second time in very recent history that Sam J Studios on the origin. I mean, then maybe this is the universe telling us all something.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna look at that one first right now because these deserve their due.
No doubt about it.
Okay, I believe this is the one. Yes, Evening Theory, by Sam J Studios. It's a hand performance, and it includes a physical hand-painted 3D printed ring, as well as an Infinite Objects video print.
Nice.
But so that stuff's really rad, and I love physical pairings, and obviously I did that actually with my Bitski drop. But honestly, I'm just in love with the video piece. It's so awesome and fresh and different than what's out there. And that stuff gets me really excited. Anytime I see something that's just obviously stepping out in their own way. So that was a big one.
Double shout out, Sam J Studios.
Yeah, so good. All right, now I'm gonna find this piece by Sarah, because
while you do that, now I'm just so curious.
The Sam J one?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to see it. Evening Theory. It's so sick.
Super rare?
Super rare, yeah.
By the way, this further drives home the need, and I promise whoever's listening to this, I will get this right in terms of we will be shifting this model at some point very soon to be having some screen shares and some awesome art flashing on the screen.
That's cool. I love that. That's a good do you put this out in audio form too?
So that is coming. It's one of, we're delayed on a couple different fronts, but I promise it'll be worth the wait. Be taking the whole experience to the next level very, very soon. And yes, we're going to drop essentially a catch-up podcast a day to get up to the present moment. So that will be a fun few weeks to get up to present day.
Yeah, man. The podcast hustle is no joke. Anyone out there who is making podcasts, I'm sending you love because I know it's a fucking grind. It's totally just a passion project of mine. You know, I do a podcast called The Cosmic Nod, and I have mostly artists on there, but sometimes I have, you know, psychedelic scientists and comedians and other people in there. But it's a grind, and it, you know, really trying to get people's schedules to line up,
sure,
and then just make sure that you promote people in the right way.
It's a big responsibility.
It is, you know, and so thank you to you. I know you put so much time and energy into that for other people, and I've gotten a lot out of your podcast, and it means a lot to me. But I know for some people who make them, it can probably feel like a little thankless, you know, at times. I mean, you get a lot out of like just the conversations themselves. That's the reward, I think. But sometimes, like for me, you put something out and it just feels like it's in a vacuum of space. For God's sake, Sarah, you have so many tweets.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And hey, by the way, I appreciate you saying that, because it goes back to you know, following your passion, right? There's always an aspect of your passion that either you didn't expect, or maybe it's frustrating at times the amount of time that's spent on it. So for me, you know,
Yeah.
with the podcast in particular, or right now the video interviews that become the podcast in particular, the editing piece, and it's not that I do a lot of editing, it's more the processing. And it's more now, you know, I'll mark up the YouTube videos to give people the time markers. Shout out Fred Fuckrender for giving me that nod a couple episodes in. He's like, you know, it'd be really cool. See this broken up. So if I want to skip to something I can. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty tangible. It's pretty usable. So let me go put the time in to do that. I love rewatching them. I hate rewatching myself, but I love rewatching the interview and the conversation, you know. But that is time consuming. It's to do that,
Dude.
break it up, reload it, wait for that to process, pop it up to you. You know what I mean? It's just like step by step. I know you know.
Oh, totally.
Step by step by step. So
doing it for me, it was really brutal the first couple months, editing myself and just like listening to myself talk that much was really not healthy. I don't think, you know, just like, oh my God, I hate myself. I don't want to hear myself talk anymore.
Do you learn to just kind of block that, like move that over here? Cause that's how it goes for me. I find myself
I don't
just
care at all.
Yeah. I just tune me out. And then I focus on like when I rewatch this and break it up and do all the timestamps and everything like that. It's just like Colin. And then when I'm talking, it's just like wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to get to that place. Otherwise, like for me, it was like hyper overthinking about editing and all this stuff. And it's like, come on. If you were just having a conversation live, like you would never think about this. Like people would just take it in, and no one's going to be sitting there pulling apart the way you said one word or the way you fucked up something or okay, I have the piece, by the way, finally.
Bring it.
Okay, it was Sarah did a piece on Foundation, and it's called You Can't Grab This, and it is fucking awesome. Nice. And I looked at it for like an hour straight. It's just like, oh, it's so cool.
Shout out to Sarah and shout out to Sanjay Studios. 2 in a row. Good stuff. Again, it's a double shout out, and Sarah's been shouted out before as well, so it's a double shout out on both fronts.
She's just incredible, and yeah, everyone follow the Sarah show. Huge shout out to her. I also want to shout out my friend Edgar Fabian Frias, and then also I want to shout out Sean Williams, who is endlessly inspiring.
Very inspiring. Putting out a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy into the space.
Yeah, and he's another example of someone I think who works in a multitude of styles, and that makes me stoked to see that, you know, someone who hasn't entered the NFT space yet, but I guarantee it's probably already in the works, is James Jean, probably like one of my favorite artists of all time, and he's the same way. You know, probably has 3 or 4 distinct styles that he works in, and yeah,
this is good.
Tangent.
We'll keep those shout outs going.
Yeah.
Number 4, back to rapid fire. Number 4, known origin.
Known origin. You know, known origin is just so special to me because they gave me my shot, really. You know, I mean, they were the first platform that said, yes, you belong here, you know. So the first thing that comes to mind when I hear known origin is gratitude.
I love it. Just like that first gallery, right?
Yep, exactly. Arch enemy, shout out.
Yeah. Number 5, Bitski.
Ooh, just infinite possibilities, man. You know, this is going to be a tangent. For me, what changed my world as a visual artist was Big Cartel, you know, being able to just open up a shop. And I guess a simultaneous tool to that was getting my first fine art printer so I could make my own G-clays. And the combination of having that storefront and having a way to make my own, you know, prints, I mean, honestly, like, changed my life. You know, it really gave me a new freedom, the way I presented my editions, the way I think it completely allowed for me to break down doors for who could collect my stuff and who couldn't, you know. And rather than having to wait for a show to sell work, I could be like, hey, I just did a watercolor experiment. It's in my shop right now. Boom, gone, sold, you know, and creating that kind of, you know, rhythm for myself, however I felt fit, rather than someone saying, okay, you have a show this day, get your work together, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, obviously what Nifty's doing is incredible, and they've kind of created this drop culture and made it so that everyone's sort of waiting, and then it, you know, it happens and it's super sick. But, you know, artists can't release at their own, like when they want, right? When they're working on that platform. So for me, with the freedom that comes with Bitski is really like, okay, I have this idea for, you know, a small edition of 3 or something. I can just throw it on there, and it's a great on ramp for people who aren't initiated yet, because you can use a credit card, super easy, like Nifty. I think the credit card thing is pretty crucial to bringing new people into the space.
100% agree. I think it just has to be for now.
Yeah.
For now, and really for the foreseeable future.
Right.
There may come a time when it's not necessary, but for the foreseeable future, you need it. If we want to grow this thing to reach more and more people in a realistic fashion, it just has to be baked in.
Yeah. And like Bitski has made it so easy to get bit by the bug, you know, like it's
I see
so
how you
easy.
did that. I see how you did that.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it was pretty amazing yesterday to see some of my collectors who have been, you know, getting my stuff for a long time get their first NFT and be really hyped about it, and like see that in their wallet, and like all of a sudden it's clicking for them. And that was a pretty cool thing. So beyond that, I also love that, you know, the way they do it is, it's better ecologically, because nothing gets minted until it's bought. So you don't have a bunch of stuff getting, you know, minted and sitting there taking up energy forever and all that stuff. It's like, no, it's minted when it's purchased. And there's just so much flexibility in what they're doing, and they're so smart, and they're so artist friendly. And they were just like anything I wanted to do, they were down. Like I was like, guys, what I want to do is every time an edition sells out, so what I did, I just want to talk a little bit about this.
Colin, we got one note.
Yeah.
I got a hard stop today in about 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay, this is easy. I got it.
Go for it. Hit that tangent, and then we're gonna put the lightning in lightning round.
Okay, you got it. Like I said, I'm good at tangents. So a part of what I did for my Bitski drop is I made these editions, right? But each NFT came with a unique still that so it was a different image than what you get with the, you know, than the animation, and it was high res wallpaper that you get a download of. I then took each of those stills, those warp stills, and I made an animated version of those. Looks very different than the actual thing that you get as a part of the edition. And I made a 1 of 1. Now, one person who collected a piece from that edition is going to be randomly sent that 1 of 1. And Bitski was down to do that kind of shit with me and experiment. And so today, because 2 of the editions sold out, 2 people are going to randomly get a 1 of 1, just pop into their wallet.
That's high level. That to me is so, you know, anyone who's thinking that way to me is special. Like Tommy Wilson was on, and he was talking about his social token, and not just wanting to like randomly do it, but wanting to make sure that if he thought it through, and that he, in his own way, rewarded somebody or somebody's for collecting certain works. Same thing.
Yeah.
The fact that you thought to do that as something you didn't need to do. Like clearly the art stands on its own, right? Someone who buys the art is not necessarily expecting anything. No, it's definitely not expecting anything. Right. And to then out of the clear blue sky, it's like, I'm the random person that has been selected for, what is it? A 1 of 1?
Yeah.
That's special.
Yeah. And it's exciting to me. And I was just really, you know, to have people like the people at Bitski be like, oh fuck yeah, and get excited about that when
Yes.
it meant extra work for them.
Yes.
Those are the kind of people I want to work with. So
Those who surprise and delight.
Exactly.
Build the strongest communities. ... Yeah.
Exactly. All right, let's go. Lightning.
Lightning. Number 6, Rarible.
Fun.
Number 7, concept that you have not yet tackled in the NFT space that you eventually want to explore.
The evolving NFT. I have a lot of ideas. So that's one, creating something that will change based on an outside existing criteria. And then also generative works like what they're doing over at Art Blocks and Async. Very exciting to me. And I'll just add on to that to maybe a little bit of a hype bomb here. Circa NFT question?
I was wondering about that.
So there you go.
Yeah. Don't make sure that gets out there, and make sure that I'm involved. I want to know.
You got
that is
my number,
awesome,
baby.
Yeah. And like I said, it was fun. The listener just had your sound to it. It just had that hint of your sound. You took it in that ambient direction, but it definitely made me smile. Pretty much every time I've listened to it. So
thanks, brother.
A full out Circa NFT, man. Number 8, dream collaboration.
Whoa, man, that's hard. I don't know. There's just too many to name. So I'll just say, because I'm just endlessly grateful for her, I think, helping me get into the space and giving me a lot of great advice. I'm going to say the Sarah Show.
The Sarah Show. Shout it out. Sarah Zucker, we got to do something.
Yeah.
I got to try to get Sarah over here
for sure
and have a nice conversation. I think that's a good origin story.
Oh, yeah, definitely. She's amazing.
She's
stuff. Got great stories.
Number 9, what artist, again, top of the mind, what artist is being slept on right now? Someone that you see that captivated you, but you don't feel is getting the attention that maybe you'd expect. We have a guest. Yes,
this is Benny.
Hey, Benny.
He's always interested in what's going on over here. I will say, my friend Edgar Fabian Frias, they make some incredible work, and not that they haven't sold work, but I think that their work should be more collected. So that's, but honestly, there's just there's so many people out there right now because the space is getting, obviously frothy at the moment. There's a lot of people out there being slept on, and I know we don't have too much time, so I'm not going to name any more people, but
we'll tack on. I'll tell you, when I do the post for this show, 2 things. One, the fact that we talked this long and I do have a hard stop today, that's on me. That's my fault today.
It's all good.
We could go, and all that means to me is when the time comes for you to next big drop, something along those lines, we'll come on back. We'll do it again.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And also, when I do post this episode up, I would love any shout outs that are left rattling around. We'll put in the thread.
Cool.
And just kind of tack those on. So anything that comes to mind after the fact, we'll throw in there.
Sure. Definitely.
And number 10, if you could instantly acquire any other artist's skill set to infuse with your own, to insert in your brain, no pain, matrix style chip, whose style is it and why?
Oh man, that's easy. So we're focusing on NFTs though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because my first thing would be James Jean, but since we're talking NFTs, the first person that comes to mind is Gavin Shapiro. I mean, his skills are insane. I just love. It's beyond just the technical. I mean, obviously, the stuff he does is mind blowing, but like, his ideas are just so fresh and fun, and they have the ability to come off very serious and pro, but like just there's just no way you can look at what he does and not smile. And yeah, it evokes the joy of creation and life. And so to be able to walk that line of being like, look at what a technical badass I am, but also you should laugh right now. That's a great skill set.
It's a big deal. It's like the highest level craft that doesn't take itself seriously at all.
Totally.
And so it ends up being, you know, like you said, you go on one side, it's just this charming, delightful experience. And the other side is holy shit, dude.
Yeah, totally.
So I like that answer a lot, man. Colin Frangicetto, Colin Circa, as I've somehow Circa seems to be your last name in my own head. I can't really get past that.
That's fine.
Man, it's been a true pleasure. And it's not just that you're on here. It's not, I don't have your NFT listed for sale. I just want you to know, it was really, really special, man. And I'm very glad that the universe connected all those dots for us. I was sitting here in the Langhorne Circus. Oh my gosh, NFTs, and bam, it all exploded. And yeah, here we are, man. And we'll do it again.
I look forward to it. Thanks, brother.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.